Got it.
And recording on for Zoom. Okay, it looks like we are live on Facebook. Woohoo! Hello, Facebook! All right, so let me give you the link so you have it.
I'm ready.
Me too, me too. Okay, copy link. There you go.
Got it.
All right. Hello, hello, Facebook. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, my tribe, for jumping on. Today, we're going to be talking about decluttering our mind and our space. And we've got Buffy Worley with us today. Woohoo!
Hi, everyone.
Yes, Miss Buffy is from Be Organized today. She helps with organizing folks in their home, helping them to pack, unpack, and if I'm wrong about anything, let me know. And she also helps with companies, helping them to get the same things together. Sometimes you might have everything already together, but you might have collected some things, or you might have gained some things, or need to clean out someone else's home. Maybe somebody who has passed away, or just various things come up where you just need some extra help and it just seems so overwhelming, or you just don't have the time. And so that's what Miss Buffy does. She helps in that regard. And honestly, I love it so much because it's something that she and I have done in my office, and she knows how to decorate, and I myself do not. I'm not good at it. I have to admit, I can look at a space and I see nothing at all.
I love
looks
it.
at a space and she looks at a space and she sees organized and pretty, and this is how you do it. And I don't see that. I don't. And so I get to admit that. And she actually came here to my house and she looked around, and in my office space, she was able to make it look good. And I walk into my space now and I'm like, oh, I like it. Look at this. This is pretty. And the funny thing is, now that was last year. Now I don't even notice it was a problem. Now the organized and the having it together, it's just the way it is. And so now I'm thinking to have her come and do some other things too, help me like with some of my notebooks and some of my paperwork and some of my stuff. And so it's really very helpful because I don't think that way. It's not a skill that I have, but as I'm learning from her, it's also helping me to develop that organized skill in my space. And I myself am about decluttering your mind and your mindset and your thinking. And so Miss Buffy and I have worked together in that regard too. And she's so open and just like me, right? Transparent about our story, transparent about our journey. So that way you can learn from it too, which, I always find inspirational, because those of us who are able to be open about our story and our journey, it helps others who are going through it too go, oh, okay, so I can do it like that. So I just want to let Miss Buffy share her testimonial of working with me so you guys could hear that. Miss Buffy, would you like to share, darling?
Yes, definitely. Like Tammy said, we have worked together in the past, and I like to think of both of us as wounded healers. So we've been through it, we've gone through the struggles, and now we can help other people make it through themselves. So I did work with Tammy right when COVID hit. I was having a really hard time kind of dealing with a lot of my mental baggage or my mental clutter. And Tammy has a really great way of helping you get it out. Number one, figure out what it is that you're actually saying to yourself. Because for me, that was really the biggest challenge. Was I didn't understand what was actually happening up here. And so it was hard for me to really kind of tackle the issues. And so working with Tammy allowed me to see what I was saying, like literally get it out, understand what it was that I was saying so that I could attack the stories that I was telling myself, many of which were not true, many of which were developed in childhood as a defense mechanism. And so once I started to realize what I was saying, I was able to start new stories. And now, instead of getting to a point with anxiety and allowing, myself to go down a rabbit hole at like 500 miles an hour head first, I'm able to stop myself and go, hold on a second. What were you just thinking about? Was that true? So that I can really start to analyze and identify what it is that's making me upset, what it is that is causing this anxiety. I used to have this rock that just used to live in my stomach, this mound of concrete that lived there before Tammy and I started working together. And just having the revelation and the realization of my thoughts is so powerful and so necessary. And that's one of the things that Tammy is able to help me do. And one of the things I really love is that when I wanted to throw other people under the bus or make other people my problem, or, give other people this power that really wasn't theirs, she has this way of bringing it back to me and creating this perspective of, well, how can you change it? What can you control? Because that's one of the things that I know I struggle with. I want to change the world. I want to make everything better, and learning what I can and cannot change has been really important. And I think that's one of the things that Tammy is able to kind of help me identify.
So awesome. When I hear your story, it just makes me feel so good, and having watched you grow, and it's just like, yay. Yeah, I'm so proud of you, Buffy. You've grown, and you've turned everything that you were struggling into your new story, into a way to help others, and in return, you're helping me back, because you're able to, as you're sharing these things, it's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
I know it's the same with my clients when they tell me, like, when you say, like, you don't even realize it was a problem, like, that's beautiful that things have gotten integrated and it becomes part of your lifestyle. And that's really what it is. Like, people think organizing is something inherently you own or you don't, like you have or you don't. And it's not like that. It's a skill, it's a transferable skill. It's something that anybody can learn. So, kind of demystifying the fact that I'm not organized. A lot of times it's gotten to a point where it's just so overwhelming. There's so much to do that people get stuck in their tracks. And so that's kind of what we do, is we kind of help you come in and figure out, like, what's the next step? Just a step. I always talk about it. It's progress, not perfection. It's one foot in front of the other. It doesn't take an overnight situation for clutter to happen. So to get out of it does take, step by step by step. It really is a process. And I think the same goes for your headspace. It's a process of understanding the steps in your brain. And, a lot of times we're able to picture something in our brains. And then when reality hits, we don't realize the magnitude of what it is that we're picturing and the amount of time and space and work
All
that
the
it's going to
steps that
require.
go, yes.
Right. So then it just creates this big overwhelm of, oh my gosh, how do I get from point A to point T? And so I'm like, no, we're going from A to B. Like, we'll get to T at some point, but that's not today. So just helping people understand that it didn't happen overnight. It's not going to change I mean, it can change, but it's not going to get to where you can picture overnight.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so perfect. And so that actually kind of reiterates. So step one, we're going over 10 steps for you guys, and there'll be an infographic after this. So you'll be able to see it posted. And the infographic will be something that you can keep and continue to review over. Oh, these are the steps that I can use to help myself. And so number one, or knowing that organizing is a skill. So thinking to yourself, I'm not good at organizing. Now you can think to yourself, I don't have the skill yet of organizing. I can learn it, right? So that was number one, what Buffy shared. And then number two, notice that there's this overwhelm that might come up, and that's okay. And in that overwhelm, knowing that it's okay if you're feeling stuck, ask for help, right? And that's the same thing for myself as well as for Buffy. It's the same for when you have that overwhelm in your thinking and in your emotions, as well as your overwhelm out there. And oh my gosh, this is just so much. I have a path of, to walk through, and then there's all this stuff. Or, it was so organized when we first got here, but now we're in years later, and it's just too much. Or I've got stuff going on in my life and I don't have time to get to that, but somebody else can help me do it. And then I can see how they did it and repeat it after that, right? Or some people, they're just like, what? I love what you did. Keep coming back.
Well, and I tell people it's a lot easier to maintain a system than it is to create one. So that's what we're helping people do, is create the systems that make sense to them so that it's easier to maintain, so that they know where things are. A lot of times people don't realize they own 10 hairbrushes and 15 screwdrivers until we get it all together, because it's sort of floating around everywhere. So once we get everything categorized and zoned, then it's a lot easier to go, oh, okay, wait a second. All of my tools are in this zone. All of my hair supplies are in this zone. And then that way, where to go to look for it, instead of, I saw it floating around on the counter yesterday, but now it's not here. And so I'm going to search for an hour and maybe find it, maybe not. And then I'm just going to go buy it if I can't, so, we're definitely trying to help people get, mindful about what it is that they already own, so that they can save money and they can save time by creating these zones and creating these categories so that they know where to look for things.
Awesome. That's beautiful. So that's actually another good point. So that would be number 3. Get mindful of what you own. Find out and create a zone. As actually, it's like a poem.
We are rhyming.
Yeah, we are. And so the other step number 4 is allowing yourself to take a look. And these steps actually apply for both the mind and your environment, but you'll see how it kind of niches into the environment as myself and Buffy are talking. When you are getting into this experience and you feel like there's this overwhelm and all this stuff, what often happens is we feel like, and I do this all the time, well, I just need to do this. But then when it comes down to it, this is not just a task. This is a project. And so being able, like what Buffy was saying, being able to see that there's out of this, a task is to get that task done, you're done. I need to move this phone. Okay, done. A project is I need to empty all of the pictures off of this onto the computer, label those pictures, get those from there, right? And so when I just say to myself, oh, I need to get my pictures off my phone, that's not the task. That is the project. And so realizing that's actually going to take like an hour to do that, if not a little bit longer, depending on how many pictures I've got on here.
Well, it's steps.
So, yes, that's what I was going to say. Exactly. Knowing that it's going to take these steps to do it versus it's just a task. And that task will just get done. Because if you have it that way, then you're putting unfair expectations on yourself.
Well, and unrealistic expectations. And that's where the overwhelm comes in. I'm going to clean out my entire closet today when it's a walk-in closet floor to ceiling is an unrealistic task. It's an unrealistic expectation. I myself, who do this for a living, cannot do a walk-in closet in an hour. It doesn't work that way. And I try to explain to people, there's a lot of time involved with organizing. And it definitely, if you don't do it, I tell people 15 minutes a day. When we create a system, spending 5 to 15 minutes every day getting things back into their homes will keep it nice and organized. If you choose to skip that every single day, then it's just going to add up over time. So if you're not doing it 15 minutes a day, that means, an hour a week, or it means 5 hours a month, or it means, 20 hours a quarter. If you keep putting things off and it keeps building up, it's just going to become a bigger and bigger task. But if you do it a little at a time and you're consistent, and I think that, you and I kind of the same thing, it's consistency. It's consistency in our thinking. It's consistency in our habits. And, it can go both ways. So when we have people that are disorganized, there's a consistency in habits. I'm just going to drop this here and I'll deal with it later. I'm going to decide later. So that's one of the points I like to point out to people. A decision to decide later is a decision to keep, because it's still staying in its space. It's staying exactly where you're leaving it, right where it's at, causing you angst, causing you, stress when you look at it. Clutter is visual noise. So it's very noisy when you walk into a place that's cluttered. And that actually, I wanted to bring it back to one of the points we were talking about before. Clutter is a manifestation of what's happening in your life. So if things are starting to get out of control, that means you're not putting enough time towards self-care. You're probably not putting enough time, you're not giving things the proper amount of time. And so clutter has a tendency to show you that. So when you see it starting to build up, it's kind of twofold. You're stressed out, so clutter builds up, but clutter's building up, so it's stressing you out, so it's really a double-edged sword there where you're getting hit both times. So I try to help people understand, as your seasons change and different things start to come into your life, your organization changes as well. So for example, I used to play the piano. I took a class, and so I had this new hobby. I needed to integrate the piano into my space. So things had to get moved around. You can't just stick a piano in a place and expect it to work. You have to kind of maybe eliminate some stuff or move some stuff into different areas so that you can make the flow happen again. So now, 3 years later, I don't really play the piano too much anymore. So I had to take it out of my space so that new things can come in. Otherwise, what happens is you end up in this sort of gridlock. If you just start piling things in and you never take them out when new hobbies, new seasons, you had a baby, you merged a household, maybe you lost somebody, you move. If you don't ever reintegrate things, then there's no flow. And so you get kind of in this gridlock. You can't move. And so you get stuck and you feel overwhelmed and you feel stressed and you feel anxious and, your mind's going crazy. So it's interesting. Clutter really, organization, the more and more that I learn about it and I teach about it, it's the underlying to everything. It really is. And it's so interesting how it works with your brain. And so that's why Tammy and I have always thought, we are wonderful together because she really declutters the mind, what's going on in here. Why can't I let things go? When you're decluttering, you get stuck. You're like, I can't let that go. I might need that one day, And then so I always have a question to combat that. Okay, well, if you can't find it, what would you do? And typically you could borrow it, you can buy it again. And one of my favorite things is when you go without, or you can't find something, or you don't have that thing you're looking for, you improvise, you find a different way, you become creative. What do they say that, necessity is the father of invention or something? So allowing yourself to go without actually creates creativity and new pathways. So, I always try to help my clients understand that, okay, yeah, you might need it one day. And then when one day appears, you're going to figure it out just like you always have.
100%. This is awesome, guys. And so you'll see me looking down, and what I'm doing is I'm jotting down what we're going to be for our 10 points, because Miss Buffy and I decided to let this flow naturally for you guys, because we know as it's coming out for us, it's perfect for who's going to be watching. And so just to reiterate, number one, organizing is a skill that you can learn. Number two, overwhelm and getting stuck is actually a voice to ask for help and support, that you're not supposed to do it on your own. So you can get clear of what that next step is. Number three, allow yourself to realize that you may be looking at a project versus a task. And so you want to take a look at what's the steps, what's the next steps. And if it's something that is a project, you want to take a look at what's the first major steps. What's like the first 3 steps? Keep it there, or just the first step. Sometimes I have to say to myself, what's just the next step? And then that's it. Got the blinders on like a horse, not looking at anything else.
Exactly.
And I have to do that more than even some, because I have like this ADD thing. And so I can get really distracted. And so, yeah, sometimes it's really bad. So when my ADD lack of focus is kicking in, it has to be one thing only. Otherwise, anything after that becomes into this space of getting lost and getting stuck and that kind of thing. So number
Well, and
four.
I think that the human brain can only handle one step at a time.
Well, it's 7 to 9 bits of information that the mind can hold, units. However, what's interesting is when you think of one thing right now, and then let yourself notice what comes with it, right? And so we think, oh, well, I can hold 7 to 9 bits of different information. Well, okay, let's say I'm looking at this pen. Okay, so what's on this pen? Now I'm looking at something else. Oh, look, red elephant's on it. I need to reach out to red elephant. I haven't talked to them in a little while. Right now, that's just 4 or 5 things. And now I'm thinking, oh, you know what? I just saw a post that Iman was sick, and I need to make sure how he's doing. Right now, all of a sudden, I've got more than 7 to 9 bits, because now I'm also feeling this emotion of how's he doing. So it's important to notice that, yes, it's best to focus on one thing. Now, if 1 or 2 things actually lines up, it works out perfect, right? So if I handle calling Iman, that's going to address everything I was just thinking about. And now I'll do that. And now I have this as an anchor reminder, which is just something else that I work with clients. So it's important to notice when your mind's going through all of that, So you can slow it back down. And so that's number 4, getting really mindful. Getting mindful. Now, this works in both ways. So the words that Buffy used is know what you own and get it in a zone. Well, the same thing works in your thinking. You got to realize what you're thinking about, knowing what you own in your thoughts, in your stories, in your beliefs. And the best way to do that is write it down. So this is the zoning of even how you think. Put down what you're thinking negatively, what you're feeling from it, where you feel it in your body. And then on that same piece of paper on the right hand side, you're going to write down what's a positive that you've learned from it? What's a blessing that you've learned from that negative experience? And if you're not sure, then we go back to number 2, asking for that support and asking for that help. And that's what I do, and being able to walk you through. Well, this is what I was thinking, and there's nothing negative about it. It just is. Well, does it have you feel good, or is it moving you forward in your life? And if the answer is no, then it actually is negative,
Well, and
because
I
it's
think
bringing up that negative experience for you.
I just wanted to reiterate the help, asking for help, because that was one of the things when I started working with Tammy. I actually started working with a coach and I started working on nervous system regulation. I really started picking up a lot of new help for myself, because we get into this thinking like I can take care of everything. I can move mountains, and yeah, you can, but you can move mountains a million times easier if you have support and if you have people rooting you on. And what's the point of moving a mountain if like nobody's there to even enjoy it with you? So like Tammy said, she's watched me grow over the last couple of years. I have a whole team of people behind me now rooting me on, and it sort of has taken on a life of its own. It's no longer just mine. I have to share it now, and like there's such a synergy involved when you ask for help, because there's this energy that comes behind it that lifts you up and gets you where you're trying to go. And I think that, I don't know if it's an American mentality or what it is about we have to do things on our own or else it's not ours. But if you really think about everything, every idea is built off of somebody else's idea. Every invention is built off of somebody else's invention. And so like, when you ask for help, it's just the opportunity to allow other people to help you to the next level, to help you get over the humps and help you get. No one's saying that if you're working with a hypnotherapist and you're working with an organizer, you have to work with them the rest of your life. Maybe you bring them in when things get stressful. You bring them in when you realize that you're just overwhelmed. And that should be the first key for anybody. I tell my team, I have somebody that answers my calls for me. I tell her, if you hear the word overwhelmed, that is our client. That is the person we are trying to help, because it's just this huge big picture thinking, which is wonderful, but sometimes it's really hard to break down into bite-sized pieces.
Yes.
And so
100%.
That's what both of us are doing, is we're helping you take these big projects or these big concepts in your minds or these big stories, and we're helping you poke holes in it. And we're helping you figure out, okay, like Tammy said, number 4, what is the first step? Only the first step. My husband teases me when I ask him to do multiple things. He's like, no, I'm a one task Timmy. That's all I can concentrate on. So I've started to take a note out of his book and just, really focus on one task at a time. And it goes for everything in life, not just your thinking or your organizing. It's everything. You can only take one step at a time physically. So it needs to be the same, in any other sense.
Yep. I love that. And the same thing for me. And like Buffy's saying, we didn't do this on our own. I didn't get here on my own. I got here I started personal development at age 17, and I'm 45, and I haven't stopped. Like I mean, an intensive. Some of these have been like 4 or 5 day, beginning of the day to the end of the day intensives of learning and growing and developing. I've got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and that's not enough. I've got my hypnotherapy certification. I've got my massage therapy certification. I'm never going to stop. I've got my coaching certification. There's other certifications that I've done too. And it's all about us growing and learning and thriving and letting our minds develop, right? That's how we become these people who have our wounds, but then we heal. And then we can be these wounded healers, right? We were wounded once, but we worked through it. We allowed ourselves to heal, but it was other people along the way that helped to guide us. And so, yes, there is this mentality, whether it's just American, but I don't think it is. I've actually seen it in other countries too, where asking for help is weak. Thinking that we can't ask for help is really what's weak. Because if you have somebody here that's going to help you carry this, and it's so much easier, then go for it. But yeah, okay, if you're super strong and you can pick it up on your own and it's way easier to carry it on your own, I get that. But if there's these things that are going on that are weighing you down, and it's like, whoa, if I had help to lift this up, it would be so much lighter, then get that support and get that help, right? Okay. And then jumping into number 5, keep it consistent. So whether you're doing 15 minutes of doing your work at home, or like, say, for instance, I might with paperwork, I might say, okay, 5 things today, right? Whatever that goal is that keeps you moving forward. And so in practicing that, I love the 15 minutes idea, because for me, whatever those 5 things are, that usually takes around 15 minutes. So whatever moves you, but gives you that specific. And it might be like, once you're in 15 minutes, you're like, what? I could keep going. And you can go a half an hour, but it gets you started. Same thing with exercise. I might say to myself, well, 5 minutes, I'm going to do some extra steps. I'm going to get in some yoga. I'm going to do the dance moves, whatever. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this was so much fun. Look, it's been like 20 minutes. And so it really helps to create that space of growing. So give yourself that consistency. And if you're like, I can't do it every day, then put it on your calendar as to when. And my suggestion is put it on your calendar. You'll forget possibly otherwise, or you'll have other things that push it out of the way. And that's the same thing with the work that I do with my clients. We meet every week, but they have work that they're doing. And I like to call it play work, not homework, because we have this negative thing about homework. You're putting it into action, you're putting it into life. And there's different pillars that we look at that have them practice. Oh, this is how I set boundaries. This is how I practice. And in session, they'll bring whoever it is, their partner or their child, or even a friend or family or parent, and we practice it together if they're not sure how, or they're not getting the results they want. And it's able to help them be able to see what to do next. And they're practicing it anytime it comes up. So it's not like, oh, let me set this every day, but it's going to come up every day because it's work that they want to work on. So keeping it consistent. I love what you said, that consistency creates the habits. And that's true, right? 21 days is what they initially said creates a habit, but now we understand that gets it started and creates the neural pathway, but you need to keep practicing it over your life. And like Buffy said, it's not something, as you get it down, your subconscious mind makes it automatic. So it's not something you have to keep seeing us for, but you come back when something hits you into overwhelm, or it hits you into stress, or it seems like it's sending you backwards. Or because when we level up and we're coming out of our comfort zone, we might find ourselves shifting into what we knew in the past. We're like, hey, we need something new for this. Like what Buffy was saying for number 6, letting the old out, right? This is even in the Bible where it's talking about, don't keep your old wine hide, right, for new wine, because it'll make it burst. You need to get new ones for the new stuff so it could expand and it could hold that. So you're creating almost a new container of yourself to hold the new things you want to do. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. It's all full
I'm
circle.
loving it. Yeah, I'm totally loving it. And so we didn't talk about it yet, but I want to move into number 7. And number 7 is understanding that all of your emotions are good, right? And this applies both in what you're thinking as well as what's going on out here. If you have emotions that are saying, whoa, this is so overwhelming, I can't even look at it, stop for a second, notice the negative thought, that thought that says, this is so overwhelming. Is that helping you or holding you back? Is it stopping you? Then you notice it's stopping you. Okay. This is so overwhelming, I can't look at it. So you're creating a habit, a choice that says, I'm not going to look at it and I'm going to leave it there. So what's going to happen, even though you think you're not bothered, as you look over here, there's an underlying overwhelm that you're not addressing. So that overwhelm actually isn't bad. It's there to tell you you're stressed. It's there to tell you there's something that's too much and you need to either work on it or get help to help you work on it. But it's telling you, hey, let's focus on this. This overwhelm's telling you you're too stressed out about something, whether it's in your space or in your thinking, which brings the emotion of overwhelm. So notice it's actually a guide to walk you through. Hey, my emotions are telling me what I'm thinking. My thinking is telling me, whether you're on the right path or whether you're needing to create a new path of thinking, or literally in where you're living. And so when you're taking a look at emotions, understanding that they're there to tell you something. Overwhelm is there to tell you that you're stressed. And the thing is, you need to declutter. So writing it down helps you declutter it out of your mind. Calling Buffy helps you declutter it out of your space. And once you've written it down, you might not know what to do with it. So that's where you reach out to me and we help you break it down. What's needed? How do you practice this differently in your life? How do you take a look at what are the stories going on? How do you help yourself to stop believing those stories? Going through that whole process. And so that's number 7. All emotions are good. Even though you might think they're bad, I usually have a battery here. I don't have it with me, it's in my office. I'm in the kitchen today. But if you think about the positive side of a battery and the negative side of a battery, which one would you say is bad?
Neither.
Exactly, right? You're like, well, is that a trick question?
Yeah.
The idea to keep in mind is we say the positive in emotion is good and the negative in emotion is bad, but what if it's just like a battery where neither can be good or bad? You need both for the flow to happen. And so allowing yourself to understand those emotions is really essential.
When I was going to say number 8, because we were talking about emotions and things like that and overwhelm, it's just it's an intention to get you moving. So if you are overwhelmed and you're standing still, it's a lot more painful than moving forward. So if you're not physically standing still, but if you're emotionally standing still, and let's say you walk into your garage and you think, I'm going to tackle the whole garage today. Number 1, nope. Because you're going to walk out and you're going to go, yep, not today. You're going to close the door and pretend it never happened. So my suggestion is always start small, start something, move. Even if that means taking a basket off of the shelf and sorting through that basket to see what you have, that's an action. That's a step in the direction you're trying to go. So don't be afraid to keep moving forward, because it's when you stand in the standstill that you swirl. So whether you're standing still in your thinking or whether you're standing still in your organization, it's just painful. We're active beings, and your active might be different than my active. I tell people, people are like, oh, your house must be perfect, and I'm like, yeah, no, I live in my house. So like there's a difference between clean and organized. Not that I'm filthy, but like, I know where my things are. It doesn't take me long to find things. I rarely misplace things. That's what it means to be organized. It doesn't mean that everything is uber perfect and picture perfect. So maybe number 9 is setting realistic expectations when it comes to decluttering or when it comes to your emotional well-being, because a lot of times what I find, like I said, people want to set the expectation of, my garage has been disorganized for 20 years and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to tackle it today and I'm going to knock it out. So that's very unrealistic. Myself and my entire team probably could not help you knock it out in a day. So you've got to remember that it took time to get where you're going, and it took consistency to get where you're going. So if you're consistently piling things on, ordering new things, always acquiring and never releasing, then you're going to get a buildup, and it's gonna happen. And so if you're consistently bringing new things in, but you're incorporating them into the space and you're releasing items, then that's a flow, versus this gridlock that happens after a while of just bringing in, never really filing. Essentially, when you think about organizing, I personally don't love filing, but if you think about organizing, you're filing things into where they go. You're categorizing them, you're sticking them in their slots or whatever. And so that's really what people fail to realize, is that there is a consistency already. So like we talked about with habits, there's already a consistency happening, and all we're doing is tweaking it. People think that you have to have these huge overhauls in your life, and you really don't. Like if you change everything you're doing, then how do you know what was working and what wasn't? Some things are working. Even when it comes to organization, people are like, oh, I'm so disorganized, nothing works, nothing's good, nothing's whatever. But they do have systems in place that work, so you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You want to recognize that there's things that work, and then you want to build upon those things. So it doesn't have to be these gigantic leaps of where you're going. So like even with Tammy helping me work out my mindset, it's not these gigantic leaps, even though when we do come to a revelation or a realization, it is, because you're able, like one of the best things for me was I was able to put down some mental baggage. I got to a point where I realized, like, holy moly, like this isn't even my baggage that I've been carrying around. This belongs to other people and I don't need to carry it anymore. So, kind of unloading of the stuff that you realize that isn't yours or doesn't serve you. I tell people clutter is anything that does not fit and function in your life. It does not mean it is not functional. It does not mean that it is trash. It means, so if let's say there's stuff on your, let's say there's a blender on your countertop and you never use the blender ever. That's clutter to you because you don't
Mhm.
use it. It's not that the blender doesn't work. It's not that the blender is bad. It's that the blender doesn't function for you. Therefore, it doesn't serve you. Therefore, it's clutter. So I think people think of clutter as like,
Confirmation.
yeah, I just think people think clutter is trash, and I'm like, no, it's not. Like clutter is useful items. It's just not necessary. There's millions of products in the world. Some of them
Mhm.
work and some of them don't. And I think that that's what happens. You end up in this guilt, like I spent money on something, I must keep it for when forever, like even if it doesn't serve you,
Mhm.
so a lot of this is mindset around the clutter as well. Like a lot of it, typically what happens is we put a little tweak in people's perspectives and they're off and running,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
it's just
totally. Absolutely.
bringing.
Yeah, I love that. And so that actually, what you thought was number 9, we do have on number 3 as far as setting realistic
Oh,
expectations.
okay.
I think number 9 is good based on what you're sharing, is removing the judgment, right? Removing that judgment out of things is nothing is good, everything's bad, I'm just messing this up, I can't get it together, all of that. But just taking it step by step, seeing that you're doing a lot of things great. There's just some things that need some tweaking, some things that are, kind of missing a spot here or missing a spot there. Or maybe there's a skill like we talked about before that you just don't have. And so learning that new skill or letting somebody else do it, because you don't need to learn the skill if somebody else can do it. I didn't need to learn how to decorate my space. Buffy did it for me. I'm okay with
And I
that.
love it. Well, and that's a good point is that I love doing it. So I believe there's a book, I don't know the name of it, but somebody was telling me that, it was suggesting that you do those things you love and let the people that love what they do those things because
Hmm.
it's just a drudgery otherwise. If you don't love
Yep.
organizing and you don't love, you know, doing these things and you can afford to have someone else do it. I mean, like housekeeping, people hire cleaners all the time now because they just don't want to do it anymore, and that's
Hmm.
okay. you
Yep.
know
Yeah, and be open to the idea. Like if a lot of times, and this is just what's called a poverty mindset. If I would think of something, I'd be like, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I can't afford it. I never even found out how much it was. I just assumed it was too much. And then there's a lot of people, including myself. I've worked with people with trade. And so I do for them what I'm good at, and they do for me what they're good at. And
and
so
everybody
there's,
wins.
yeah, yeah, there's so many different ways of doing things. So it doesn't have to be the way you think it is or should be. If you let yourself think, well, I'd like that. How could I make that happen? It lets your mind come up with new thoughts. If you're in judgment and you're in not good enough and you're in failing, there's no more room. That's the old stuff bogging all of you down. But if you're into, okay, well, what if I'm not judging myself, but what if this is something that I do want to change? What if I'm not comparing myself to other people? Instead, I'm looking at, well, how can I make it different now? Then the mind will come up with ideas. And then number 10, which I think is really great, I love it, is unload what isn't yours, right? So some of these concepts that you might notice yourself having, what if you got them from your parents and grandparents? All of that poverty mindset I just shared with you was what my family always said. We don't have enough, right? There's not enough. But what was interesting is I would notice that this was also issues with my mom, is there was enough for her to get cigarettes and get the things that she wanted and get the milk and get the this and get the that. And I say milk because there wasn't enough milk for me to have, but there was enough milk for her to have. Right. So simple things like that made a huge difference for a little kid because I liked my milk in my cereal, but I had to share it with my whoever she was taking care of, whatever little kid she had. She always had little kids taking care of them. So it was just a reinforcement to me that there wasn't enough for me. And so I have also retained that in my life, and I have to catch it when I'm doing it and stop it. You know, I will not throw food away. I will make sure I eat the food, which on one hand I love. I love not wasting. But then there's times when it's something I hate, and my husband has to be like, "Don't eat that. Don't make yourself eat that." And I'm like, "Okay, okay, you're right, you're right." Sometimes it's really hard for me to break out of it because it's what I learned growing up. Um, you eat it, you're not going to waste it, and it'll be at your table until you eat it. Every single meal, it's going to be there. And so I just learned that process of, yeah, you don't waste food, you just don't. And then of course I see so many people wasting food that it bothers me, so that has reinforced, some silly things, but I can
Well, and it's
actually
the
throw
same.
stuff away now that I don't like, and it's okay.
It's the same with organizing, with the whole "I might need it one day" mentality. You've been taught that you might need it, that you must keep everything that you buy because it's all valuable. It's the same premise, and I know that I've had a scarcity mindset in the past, and I don't know what happened. I think working with you, Tammy, like we've talked about my scarcity mindset, and suddenly a switch went off, and I have an abundance mindset now, and things flow to me so much easier. And I've never really, I mean, when I was younger, we struggled as well. My mom was a single parent. She had 3 jobs. She was always trying to make ends meet. She was always working. So we did have a little bit of scarcity occurring. But in my adulthood, in the last, 25 years, since I've been able to physically work, I've never had that issue. I've always had a way to make ends meet. And now that I have this abundance mindset, things come so much easier, like so much easier. Like I'm spending money in a different way than I ever had before that would make me choke 10 years ago, and now I'm like, it's fine. I need to invest in my business. I'm going to spend it. I need to like reward my team. I'm going to give it to them. And every time I do that, every time I give to the world, I receive a million times more. So one of the things I try to explain to people, okay, so that blender doesn't serve you and you're going to donate it. And now it's going to serve somebody that needs it.
Mhm,
And it's going to
mhm,
take on a whole new life because of your generosity that you're letting this thing go. And it's almost like cognitive behavioral therapy when you
mhm.
so it's hard to let that blender go. I spent, it's a Vitamix and I had all these intentions attached to it. So it's not the thing, it's the intentions, it's the dreams, it's it's all these things that you've attached to that thing that you sort of have to let go of. So when you let that go and you let it move on and have its own life, the beauty of it is, yeah, it might be mildly painful when you initially do it, but when it's done and now you have this counter space that's free to you to use for the things you need and use, it opens up this whole new world. And it's actually this brand new joy that you didn't think you could have. And
Yep.
it stops you from being locked. It stops you from standing still. It allows flow again. And
For
so
us, it allowed our air fryer.
that you probably use all the time, right?
Yeah,
It
we
allowed
do.
you to put in something that
So
actually
much more
creates
fun
intentions.
now.
Yes. Like, yeah, it just, if something does not serve you, that is clutter. That's the essence of it. I don't care how much you spent on it. I don't care how much, who gave it to you. If it does not serve you specifically, that is clutter.
Beautiful. Yay! Well, we are at time. I want to thank you so much, Miss Buffy. This was so inspirational, informational, and I know it's going to help a lot of people. Please do continue to share it. I'll continue to share it. Those of you who are watching the replay, those of you who I could see hearts are popping, but I can't see who it is. Thank you so much. Big hearts back to you guys. We really appreciate you guys spending your time with us.
Yes.
And please do share this information. There's some people who've never heard of this stuff before. They don't even know it's possible. Oh, I see Phyllis gave us a heart. Big hearts to Phyllis.
Yeah, don't be
um,
afraid because these things are unconventional. Organization, personal organizers are kind of a new concept to people. Hypnotherapy is kind of a mystified thing. And
mhm.
that's what we want to do. We want to iron that out for you. And we're just people trying to help people. That's the bottom
Yeah.
line.
And it's all about just changing your mindset, whatever term people use, like, like the whole thing that you were saying about Buffy, like it's like cognitive behavioral therapy. Well, just because they termed it cognitive behavioral therapy, what that means is you're changing your thinking. Hey there, Larry, big hearts to you too. Now they're starting to show up.
You're
um,
pushing through the pain.
right, it doesn't matter what label it's given. You have a brain that you can change, you have behavior that you can change, you have a way of thinking that you can change. however it is that you find ways to help yourself change it, that's the way to do it. There's no right way, no wrong way, no label on it. Just find what you need to help you grow, help you thrive, help you step into abundance. And then if you want to find people like myself or Buffy to help you kind of declutter stuff you're not sure how, that's what we're here for. We had people do the same thing for us, or we had a life experience that have helped us to do the same thing. So just know that you're not alone. We're not doing this
You are
because it's
not
just
alone.
our jobs. We're doing this because we love it. And that's why we've made it our business, literally. So we're the declutter ladies. So you guys, we just appreciate you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you. And I'm on here each Wednesday at 8:15 answering your questions. And so please do share any questions or challenges that you have that guides my topic. And as always, bring it in, big squishy hugs. All right, take care, everybody. Bye.